So about 6 years ago, I built an arcade machine in my basement. It's had a couple of hardware revisions, but I very soon settled on a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus as the heart and soul of the whole operation, running Retropie with emulation station, and I've been perfectly happy with it. But now I also have a MiSTer, and it got me thinking, what would that be like in there? So I'm going to pop this little beastie inside the cab, see what customisation I can make, if any settings need to be changed to get it to work, and then I'll test out a few games and see which I prefer, whether it's the MiSTer or the Raspberry Pi. So yeah, this is my arcade cab, which I built a few years ago. Now, I'm no carpenter, but I took my time, figured out how to make the wood hold together just enough so it doesn't fall apart. For the monitor, I used a Dell 1600 by 1200 LCD display from 2007. This has a DVI-D input rather than VGA, which makes it perfect for connecting HDMI straight to it. With a 5 millisecond response time and a decent resolution for filters, it's a perfect substitute for a CRT in my opinion, and suits the 80s and 90s games down to the ground. Buttons and joysticks are handled by Sanwa and Saimitsu parts. They're connected to a pretty basic but functional USB interface, and that's pretty much it. The rest is handled by the computer inside. Initially I'd used a Windows-based Core 2 quad with Windows 10 and Hyperspin, and after spending days setting all that up, I still wasn't happy, and the Windows update finally finished the job for me by making it a slow and unstable mess. So I switched to the Pi, which is honestly a decision I should have made at the beginning, and it's been like that for the past 5 years or so. But that's until now, with the legendary MiSTer system at my disposal, for a possibly more accurate representation of these arcade games. Will it enhance the experience? Well, let's find out. First things first, let's take a look at how the arcade currently functions. So after a short boot sequence, we're into the menu, and here you can see I've quite heavily customised the menu and loading screens to fit in with the Aliens aesthetic I've got going on here. At our disposal are myriad systems and many thousands of games. I usually just stick to arcade and Neo Geo games and probably play less than 10 regularly. The emulation station interface is customisable and it gets the job done. It's got nice descriptions, box art and ratings, really cool. The games do load rather quickly and for the most part feel very good to play. Nice, simple and easy. So let's pull the Raspberry Pi out now and get the MiSTer in. So what I needed to do was change the video output to DVI to make sure it's DVI compatible. And then in order to get it to support the 1600 by 1200 resolution of the Dell monitor, I had to add this line to the MiSTer.ini. After that it worked fine. Customization wise, I started by customizing the boot menu screen. So I created an Aliens theme one to match the graphics already emblazoned on the cabinet. Last piece of customization I'd like to do is change the font. Now there are around 300 custom fonts available on the MiSTer. I had a quick look through them and I picked this one. I think it suits it rather well. Turned off the MiSTer logo and it's done. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it looks actually. Although it's not as heavily customized as the Raspberry Pi, I do really like how this looks. So after playing through a few games, I did notice one or two considerations. So the Raspberry Pi output seemed to be a little warmer and not running at a stable 60 frames a second all the time. It wasn't bad by any means and not something I'd noticed up until this point really. There's really nothing about the MiSTer's output that bothered me. I guess the main downside would be that there's less games available. Bearing in mind that the Raspberry Pi system will attempt to play everything you throw at it, regardless of how well it handles the actual emulation. These arcade cores running on MiSTer feel really great to play. It's definitely a step up from what I'm used to with the Pi, but the difference isn't huge. If you know a game well, then I think that's when it comes into its own here. Everything just feels that little bit snappier and smoother, like you just have more control over the action. This is what the MiSTer is all about after all. So let's look at the pros and cons of each, starting with the Raspberry Pi. So cost. Yeah, the Raspberry Pi is very affordable. I know prices have risen a little bit recently, but the standard cost is only around £30 to £40. There's a lot more things that can be customised, skins that you can download, etc, etc. It has a very wide system support. There's tons of developers doing great work on the Pi, bringing systems that you never thought were even possible and making them run to a very high standard. It has a more in-depth menu system. There's just more things there, more abilities, more things that you can do. Cons? Well, it's slower to start up. There's definitely a small amount of input lag, and frame timing can be off from time to time. Overall, I would say the emulation for the most part is less accurate and can be unstable with certain titles. So now the MiSTer. The pros of the MiSTer? Well, conversely to the Raspberry Pi, it starts up almost instantly. Input seems a lot faster, and frame timing, well, it's basically perfect. At the end of the day, it is a more accurate replication of these titles. Supported cores and systems on the MiSTer are very, very stable. Cons then? Well, cost. It is far more expensive, almost 10 times what you'd expect to pay for a Raspberry Pi setup. It's less customizable, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything. As you can see here, I changed the background, changed the font, and it allowed me to make it fit in with the Aliens theme I have for the cabinet. It has great support across the board, but there are notably less games available, certainly for the arcade cores. But what is there is wonderful. And the menu, whilst perfectly functional, is basic. Well, hopefully that gives you a good idea of what to expect from each system, and that's certainly where my thoughts are with them anyway. So am I going to ditch the Pi in favour of MiSTer? Well, in this instance, probably not. The Pi is perfect for this need. It's affordable, it supports a ton of games and systems, and I don't play on the arcade every day. It's something I dip into every week or two, have a quick play, and then I'm done. I think the value for MiSTer, certainly for me, is being able to hook it up to my living room TV or a CRT and play console games or run old computer systems. I feel like it'd be a wasted opportunity to just put it into the arcade. It's not to say I'll never do it again. The experience was fantastic, and I'm sure from time to time I will bring it down to the basement, plug it into the arcade, and have a great time. So as it stands, I'm keeping things as they are. If you want to know more about MiSTer, I have some other videos linked in the description, or just stick around to the end of the video, I'll put one up there. Thanks for watching, don't forget to boot the like button and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, you're wonderful, I'm done.